point where we're on the second part of our double decker, which is presenting a PowerPoint in video and Teams. Now, we've had the ability to present video in PowerPoints for a long time, but I wanted to call out, there's a couple of things that are going on that we want to be sure that you're using to make that video in PowerPoint as optimized as possible. And this is going to be in conjunction with the new PowerPoint Live, okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, so we've got the old way to present we're going to talk about. We've got the right way, or we'll call it the new way maybe, or the right way. And then I did put a little bit of tips and tricks in there at the end for you. So let's jump right into that. All right, so we all know that sharing a video in PowerPoint can be a challenge, but with these new changes that we've made, we're going to show you how to make this experience much better. All right, now in order to understand what we're doing and why it's so much better, we need to understand where we came from. So prior to the new way of sharing, if you wanted to share content or video or something in an event, you had to do it through what I'm doing today, which is a desktop share. Okay, so let's be honest. I told you early on I was doing a desktop share because this is a live event, okay? And you guys don't have the ability to pull down the content from the cloud because it's a live event. You're not joined via an interactive client. You're in basically a listen or view only mode. And this is kind of the way it started, right? So it started as a remote desktop protocol, which, as you can see, right? Whoops, my bad. Which, as you can see, took up a lot of bandwidth, right? If you were trying to present, almost 12 meg peak just for a PowerPoint, or if you're doing video, 7 meg. Now, back then, nobody had that kind of bandwidth, all right? So you might remember from our Skype for Business days when we rolled out what was called video-based screen sharing, right? So video-based screen sharing, or VBSS, which is the UDP protocol, stands for User Datagram Protocol. Uses much less bandwidth. You can see now that presenting a PowerPoint uses much less, 4 times as less to almost, and then for CAD and then for video as well. So VBSS used a lot less, and that was peak. Average was over here, so 100 kilobytes, 1 meg, and up to 1.3 meg. So VBSS did a lot to help with video sharing, but we're taking it to the next level now. Now, I promised you this graphic. So today, as I am presenting, I am actually using the old way again because it's a live event. So what that means is my content is on my PC. We're using my internet connection up to my ISP, all right? And then from there, it's going to Office 365, where then you find folks are then listening to it, okay? So we've got this connection here and this connection, oops, sorry, not that one. And this connection here, which could possibly interfere with the way you view this presentation, okay? So this is kind of the old way, all right? So you can see I've selected my screen, all right, because I've got multiple displays, and that's where the content is coming from. It's capturing my second screen, which is where my PowerPoint's coming from. So again, old way of doing things. Now, just to reiterate, when I'm doing this, if I'm going to be sharing something that has audio, I want to be sure to include system audio, which I did in this case. Not in the screenshot, but for this meeting. All right. Again, when you're sharing desktop video or whatever, don't forget to check the box like we just talked about, right? Check that box there. And then the other thing is you want to make sure that your PC audio device is the same as your Teams audio device. All right. So you may not know this, but Teams can actually use a different speaker and microphone than what your PC has. So if you're, say, watching a video on the web or something, you might actually hear audio coming from your PC speakers and not the device that you had for Teams. All right. But in order to make your that system audio work properly, you want to make sure that those two devices are the same. So whatever device you're using for Teams, make sure you use for your desktop as well. All right, so, I've seen this a lot. People go to share their screen. They may only have a single screen. They'll share PowerPoint in edit mode. That's just not a great experience, okay? The whole idea of PowerPoint is to share the presentation, and a lot of people will do that. They'll share their primary screen, and that can open up an opportunity for PII to be displayed, okay? There you can see I was sharing my desktop, but I didn't minimize my taskbar. So anything that I had going on there is going to be visible. So that's not a good experience. Now, I'm using multiple monitors. I don't have my desktop taskbar presented in the second monitor, so you're not seeing it. So in this case, it doesn't apply, but I've seen this all too many times. Now, the old way does have some benefits. For example, in a live event like today where you can't get that content, you can use it, right? It's still there, it still works. And the other thing, for sharing your desktop, help desk use it a lot. It's very helpful for a help desk because then they can take control, they can troubleshoot, they don't have to send somebody to your desk. And especially now with everybody working from home, you can get in touch with those people that can help you and they can take control using quote unquote the old way or just your standard desktop share. So it still does have a purpose. My point here isn't to bash the old way, but simply to call out the fact that there is a newer way when it comes to PowerPoint. All right, so what is this new way? Well, when we go to share in a presentation, we are given options of what to share. Now you can see I had a lot going on when I did this screenshot, okay? I could share a screen, one or two. I could share the meeting itself or my calendar, some things that I had open. I had a Visio diagram open, File Explorer, I had a lot of windows open, or I can come all the way over here and present a PowerPoint. So this is the PowerPoint Live feature. Okay, I can present that PowerPoint. Now, that PowerPoint needs to be in OneDrive, can't be local, otherwise it won't work. All right, or somewhere, say maybe in SharePoint, somewhere in Office 365. All right, so then you will grab and share that device by selecting that PowerPoint. Okay, and again, you don't need computer sound because people are going to be pulling it from Office 365. Okay, so this link is gone. It's not coming from my PC. That link doesn't exist. You guys are all pulling that content from Office 365. So if I lose my internet for some reason, if that goes away, you guys can still see the content and say, maybe Kelly's sitting over here, right? She could actually then take over and continue presenting if need be. One advantage of that, okay? And as you heard me talk about earlier, when you do this, let's say you only have a single monitor, okay? In your Teams meeting window, as a presenter, you will get meeting notes if there were some, the actual slide itself, and then down at the bottom, you can see what slides are coming up next and be able to scroll through them. Now, I don't know that I talked about it. I don't know that we're going to actually call it out, but this little eyeball right here is what allows participants to scroll through the PowerPoint independently of the presenter. Okay, don't forget, because it exists in the cloud, every one of you has the ability to gain access to it and be able to scroll through it independent if that's been selected. So it's up here in this area here, this little eyeball right there, that controls that to allow people to independently scroll through it or not. Something to play with when you get that option. And then from an attendee standpoint, this is what you'll see. If you did have the ability to scroll through it, then you'll have that little bar right there, okay? But if you did not, you will not be given that. Or if you are an attendee only, you won't have that little bar. All right, now for the part we've all been waiting for. Get ready, because we're about to have it. Videos in PowerPoint, embedded versus linked. Why is that still there? There we go. Now then, that's odd. Go away. Go away, go away, go away. All right. So, in this screen, I have linked a PowerPoint video. Now you'll notice it didn't automatically start. And if this was a Teams meeting, it would not have automatically started for you either. You would actually have to click the button because it's a linked PowerPoint. Okay. Now we played with this yesterday. I even set it to auto start. It won't do it, I guess, because it has something to do with the way that it's linked, but it's not going to start automatically. Okay. But I can click start.
Today, HoloLens 2 is transforming our daily practice in surgery. It meets two objectives, ensuring
Now, the other thing you'll want to do when you're presenting video in a PowerPoint like this is you can go ahead and actually mute your microphone in Teams. The audio will still, even if it's coming from my PC like it is right now, you'll still hear the presentation. But that way, no background noise, or if you needed to talk to somebody while the video was playing, you could. So again, make sure you mute your Teams client when you're presenting video. It makes it a better experience for those people that are listening to it. So this is linked, okay? Now, the advantage to having a linked video is it keeps your PowerPoint very small, okay? You embedded the URL, we click play, it reaches out to the internet, grabs that content, in this case, pulls it down to my computer so I can then play it back up to you guys, all right? The real advantage, again, is the fact that it keeps the file size small. Now, one of the big disadvantages is this. If that URL changes for whatever reason, that link will no longer be valid, and that can be embarrassing. So just be careful with that. Always check your links prior to the presentation. Now, I'm going to click next, and when I do, the video that I've got that's downloaded locally into the PowerPoint is going to start playing automatically. All right, I'll shut it down, but it's going to play automatically because I set it to play automatically. Now, and then we'll talk about the pros and cons.
Ooh ee ooh ah ah ting tang walla walla bang bang. Ooh ee ooh ah ah ting tang walla walla bang bang. Ooh ee ooh ah ah ting tang walla walla bang bang. Ooh ee ooh ah ah ting tang walla walla bang bang.
That's kind of funny.
Ting tang walla walla bang bang. Ooh ee ooh ah ah ting tang walla walla bang bang. Ooh ee ooh ah ah ting tang walla walla bang bang.
Okay, so that's all right. It must be because I was in pen mode that I couldn't actually stop it. But so you can see it can be set to start automatically so as not to disrupt the flow of the meeting. It does make your file size a lot bigger because you're actually putting that video right into the PowerPoint file itself. Okay, now again, because I'm presenting my screen and this content is local, I had to make sure that I was presenting system audio. If this were a PowerPoint live presentation, I would not have had to include system audio. All right, we're almost done and we're close to the top of the hour. So real quick tips and tricks. We already talked about this, but make sure your PC and your Teams audio device are the same. And there's some graphics there that you can double check that. Otherwise, you will either get an error or your audio will not play. As we talked about, you can mute your presenter microphone while those videos are playing. That way, your audio isn't mixing with the video audio, and you can actually have a conversation, have a drink of water or something in the back, so that no background noise is disturbing the video that you're playing. And the final one here is always include the link of the linked video or the link for, say, a Office 365 based video that you provide in the event that somebody couldn't hear it, see it, watch it, whatever. Always put that link in there so that they have access to it, okay? As you can see, I put a note, that link is not real. There was a video at that link at one point. Of course, it's not there anymore. However, that YouTube URL actually is live. That's where I got that that first video that you saw. Although you guys can't click it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's a good idea to include the URLs to the videos, whether in the notes section or in the actual graphic itself, so that people can go back and get to them in the event that they can't hear them in the actual meeting itself. And with that, I have reached the top of the hour, or very close to it. If you have any other questions, Kelly's still moderating. She'll be happy to ask them real quick. If not, I really want to thank you for spending an hour with us today. This has been a lot of fun for me. I really hope that as soon as you guys get these options that you go out and start using them. And of course, she and I are always around on LinkedIn and on email and Teams, of course, if you have follow-up questions. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate you guys joining us today. Kelly, back to you.
Thanks, Scott. Hey, so I knew that we were going to cut it close on time because you were covering so much good information today. So I've responded to all the outstanding questions already, just responded to individuals. So really great questions. If you have any just last second questions here, if you could type them in really quick, we'll go ahead and get to it. Other than that, just a quick reminder for those of you that didn't join right at the beginning, next session we'll be covering all the modules of Microsoft Viva. Again, Microsoft Viva is essentially package, I would say, features and solutions. They're individual, but there's 4 of them. But every single essential module of Microsoft Viva is focused on driving employee engagement. And then on May 20th, that's where, again, we covered all the new meetings features today, but May 20th is going to be all of the new Teams features. So just like Scott has taken you through today, showing you all these really cool features, you're not going to want to miss the one on the 20th, because essentially we're covering everything outside of meetings that we didn't get to. Plus, there's a ton of features that are getting ready to roll out outside of meetings. So that'll be a great update and a great time to do that session. As always, I don't see any questions come in. So as always, thank you so much for attending. This will be posted on demand. I'm going to try to actually get it up this evening. So you will find it on demand at TryThisAt.Work. And thank you all so much. And we hope you have a great day.